Hare Krishna. We are continuing reading of the book Nectar of Devotion, chapter 22. Qualities of Krishna further explained. 31. Heroic. A person who is very enthusiastic in military activities and expert in realizing different kinds of weapons is called heroic. Regarding Krishna's heroism in fighting, there is the following statement. My dear killer of the enemy, just as the elephant, while taking bath in the lake, destroys all the lotus stems within the water by swinging its trunk, so simply by moving your arms, which are compared to the trunks of elephants, you have killed so many lotus-like enemies. Regarding Krishna's expertise in releasing weapons, when Jarasandha and 13 divisions of soldiers attacked Krishna's army, they were unable to hurt even one soldier on the side of Krishna. This was due to Krishna's expert military training. This is unique in the history of military art. 32. Compassionate. A person who is unable to bear another's distress is called compassionate. Krishna's compassion for distressed persons was exhibited when he released all of the kings imprisoned by Magadendra. While dying, grandfather Bhishma prayed to Krishna and described him as the sun that eradicated darkness. The kings imprisoned by Magadendra were put into dark cells, and when Krishna appeared there, the darkness immediately disappeared, just as if the sun had risen. In other words, although Magadendra was able to imprison so many kings, upon the appearance of Krishna, they were all released. Krishna released the kings out of his sincere compassion for them. Krishna's compassion was also exhibited when grandfather Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows which had been shot through his body. While lying in this position, Bhishma was very anxious to see Krishna, and thus Krishna appeared there. Upon seeing the pitiable condition of Bhishma, Krishna began speaking with tears in his eyes. Not only was he shedding tears, but he also forgot himself in his compassion. Therefore, instead of offering obeisances to Krishna directly, devotees offer obeisances to his compassionate nature. Actually, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is very difficult to approach him. But the devotees, taking advantage of his compassionate nature, which is represented by Radharani, always pray to Radharani for Krishna's compassion. Text 33. Respectful. A person who shows adequate respect to a spiritual master, a brahmana, and an old person is to be understood as being respectful. When superior persons assembled before Krishna, Krishna first of all offered respect to his spiritual master, then to his father, and then to his elder brother Balarama. In this way, Lord Krishna, the lotus eyed, was completely happy and pure at heart in all of his dealings. 34. Gentle. Any person who neither becomes impudent nor exhibits a puffed up nature is called gentle. The example of Krishna's gentle behavior was manifested when he was coming to the arena of the Rajasuya sacrifice arranged by Maharaj Yudhishthira, Krishna's older cousin. Maharaj Yudhishthira knew that Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead and he was attempting to get down from his chariot to receive Krishna. But before Yudhishthira could get down, Lord Krishna got down from his own chariot and immediately fell at the feet of the king. Even though Krishna is the supreme personality of God, he never forgets to show social etiquette in his dealings. Number 35. Liberal. Any person who is by his natural behavior very mild is called liberal. A statement by Uddhava after the Shamantaka jewel plundering confirms that Krishna is so kind and favorable that if a servitor is accused even of great offences, Krishna does not take this into consideration. He simply considers a service that is rendered by his devotee. Number 36. Shy. A person who sometimes exhibits humility and bashfulness is called shy. As described in the Lalita Madhava, Krishna's shyness was manifested when he lifted Govardhan hill by the little finger of his left hand. All of the gopis were observing Krishna's wonderful achievements, and Krishna was also smiling at seeing the gopis. When Krishna's glance went over the breasts of the gopis, his hand began to shake, and upon seeing his hand shake, all of the cowherd men underneath the hill became a little disturbed. Then there was a tumultuous roaring sound, and they all began to pray to Krishna for safety. At this time, Lord Balaram was smiling, thinking that these cowherd men had been frightened by the shaking of the Govardhan hill. But seeing Balaram smile, Krishna thought that Balaram had understood his mind in observing the breasts of the gopis, and he immediately became bashful. Number 37. Protector of surrendered souls. Krishna is a protector of all surrendered souls. Some enemy of Krishna's was enlivened with the thought that he needn't fear Krishna because if he simply surrendered unto him, Krishna would give him all of protection. Krishna is sometimes compared to the moon, which does not hesitate to distribute its soothing rays even on the house of the Chandalas and other untouchables. 38. Happy. Any person who is always joyful and untouched by any distress is called happy. As far as Krishna's enjoyment is concerned, it is stated that the ornaments that decorated the bodies of Krishna and his queens were beyond the dreams of Kuvera, the treasurer of the heavenly kingdom. The constant dancing before the doors of Krishna's palaces was not to be imagined even by the demigods in heavenly kingdom. In the heavenly kingdom, Indra always sees the dancing of the society girls. But even Indra could not imagine how beautiful were the dances being performed at the gates of Krishna's palaces. Gauri means white woman, and Lord Shiva's wife is called Gauri. The beautiful women residing within the palaces of Krishna were so much whiter than Gauri that they were compared to the moonshine and they were constantly visible to Krishna. Therefore, no one can be enjoying more than Krishna. The conception of enjoyment is beautiful women, ornaments, and riches, and all of these were fabulously present in the palaces of Krishna, defeating even the imagination of Kuvera, Lord Indra, or Lord Shiva. Not even a slight distress can touch Krishna. Once some of the gopis went to the palace where the Brahmanas were performing sacrifices and said, "Dear wives of the Brahmanas, you must know that not even a slight smell of distress can touch Krishna. He knows no loss, he knows no defamation, he has no fear, he has no anxiety, and he does not know calamity. He is simply encircled by the dances of Raja and is enjoying their company in the Rasa dance." 39. Well wisher of his devotees. It is said of Krishna's devotees that if they offer even a little water or a tulsi leaf in devotion to Lord Vishnu is so kind that he will sell himself to them. Krishna's favoritism toward his devotees was exhibited in his fight with Bhishma. When grandfather Bhishma was lying at the point of death on the bed of arrows, Krishna was present before him and Bhishma was remembering how Krishna had been kind to him on the battlefield. Krishna had promised that in the battlefield of Kurukshetra he would not even touch a weapon to help either side. He would remain neutral. Although Krishna was Arjuna's charioteer, he had promised that he would not help Arjuna by using any weapon. But one day, Bhishma, in order to nullify Krishna's promise, exhibited his fighting spirit so magnificently against Arjuna that Krishna was obliged to get down from his chariot. Taking up a broken chariot wheel, he ran towards grandfather Bhishma as a lion runs towards an elephant to kill it. Grandfather Bhishma remembered this scene and he later praised Krishna for his glorious favoritism toward his devotee Arjuna, even at the risk of breaking his own promise. 40. Controlled by love. Krishna becomes obliged to the loving spirit of the devotee and not exactly to the service rendered. No one can serve Krishna completely. He is so complete and self sufficient that he has no need of any service from the devotee. It is the devotee's attitude of love and affection for Krishna that makes him obliged. A very nice example of this obligatory behavior was manifested when Sudama Vipra went to Krishna's palace. Sudama Vipra had been a class friend of Krishna's, and due to his poverty, he was induced by his wife to see Krishna to request some aid. When Sudama Vipra reached Krishna's palace, Krishna received him very well, and both he and his wife washed the feet of Sudama Vipra, showing respect to the Brahmana. Remembering his loving affairs with Sudama and their childhood, Krishna began to shed tears while receiving him. Another instance of Krishna's obligation to his devotees described in the 10th canto, 9th chapter, verse 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Shukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, "My dear king, when Mother Yashoda was perspiring, tired of trying to bind Krishna up with rope, Krishna agreed to allow her to bind him. Krishna, as a child, was disturbing his mother by his naughty activities, and she wanted to bind him up. Mother Yashoda brought some rope from the house and tried to tie up the child, but she could not tie a knot due to the shortness of the rope. She tied together many ropes, but when she finished till the rope was too short. After a while she felt very tired and began to perspire. At that time Krishna agreed to be bound up by his mother. In other words, no one can bind Krishna by any means other than love. He is bound only by obligation to his devotees because of their ecstatic love for him. All auspicious. A person who is always engaged in auspicious welfare activities for everyone is known as all auspicious. After the disappearance of Lord Krishna from this planet, Uddhava began to remember the activities of the Lord and said, Krishna satisfied all great sages by his wonderful pastimes. He demolished all of the demoniac activities of the cruel royal order, protected all pious men, and killed all cruel fighters on the battlefield. Therefore, he is all auspicious for all men. Most powerful. A person who can always put his enemy into calamities is called powerful. When Krishna was present on this planet, just as the powerful sun drives all darkness to take shelter in caves, he drove away all of his enemies who fled like owls to take shelter beyond his sight. All famous. A person who becomes well known due to his spotless character is called famous. It is stated that the diffusion of Krishna's fame is like the moonshine, which turns darkness into light. In other words, if Krishna consciousness is preached all over the world, the darkness of ignorance and anxiety of material existence will turn into the whiteness of purity, peacefulness, and prosperity. When the great sage Narada was chanting the glories of the Lord, the bluish line on the neck of Lord Shiva disappeared. Upon seeing this, Gauri, the wife of Lord Shiva, suspected Lord Shiva of being someone else disguised as her husband, and out of fear she immediately left his company. Upon hearing the chanting of Krishna's name, Lord Balaram saw that his dress had become white, although he was generally accustomed to a bluish dress, and the cowherd girls saw all of the water of the Yamuna river turn into milk, so they began to churn it into butter. In other words, by the spreading of Krishna consciousness or the glories of Krishna, everything became white and pure. Popular 44 popular. Any person who is very dear to people in general is called a popular man. As for Krishna's popularity, there is a statement in the first canto, 11th chapter, verse 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam that deals with his returning home from the capital of Hastinapura. While he had been absent from Dwarka, the battle of Kurukshetra, all the citizens of Dwarka had become morose. Then, when he returned, the citizens joyfully received him and said, Dear Lord, while you were absent from the city, we passed our days in the darkness of night. As in the darkness of night, every moment appears to be a long duration of time. So, while you were gone, every moment appeared to us like millions of years. Your separation is completely unbearable to us. This statement shows how popular Krishna was all over the country. A similar incident occurred when Krishna entered the arena of sacrifice arranged by King Kamsa for his death. As soon as he entered the palace, all the sages began to cry, Jai, 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 which means victory. Krishna was a boy at that time, and all the sages offered their respectful blessings to him. The demigods who were present also began to offer beautiful prayers to Krishna, and the ladies and girls present expressed their joy from all corners of the arena. In other words, there was no one in that particular place with whom Krishna was not very popular. Text 45 partial to devotees. Although Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead and is therefore not partial to anyone, it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that he has special attraction for a devotee who worships his name in love and affection. When Krishna was on this planet, one devotee expressed his feeling in this way: My dear Lord, if you had not appeared on this planet, then the Asuras, demons, and atheists would have surely created havoc against the activities of the devotees. I cannot imagine the magnitude of such devastation prevented by your presence. From the very beginning of his appearance, Krishna was the greatest enemy of all demoniac persons. Although Krishna's enmity toward the demons is actually comparable to his friendship with his devotees. This is because any demon who is killed by Krishna receives immediate salvation. Text 46. Very attractive, quality 46. Very attractive to all women. Any person who has special qualifications becomes immediately very attractive to women. A devotee made the following a statement about the queens of Dwaraka. How shall I describe the glories of the queens of Dwaraka who are personally engaged in service of the Lord? The Lord is so great that simply by chanting his name, all the great sages like Narada can enjoy transcendental bliss. So, what can be said about those queens who are at every moment seeing the Lord and serving him personally? Krishna had 16,108 wives in Dwaraka, and each and every one of them was attracted to Krishna just as iron is attracted by a magnet. There is a statement by a devotee: My dear Lord, You are just like a magnet, and all the damsels of Raja are just like iron. In whichever direction you are moving, they are following you, as iron is attracted by a magnetic force. 47. All worshipable. A person who is respected and worshipped by all kinds of human beings and demigods is called Sarvaradhya, or all worshipable. Krishna is worshipped not only by all living entities, including the great demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Balarama, but also by Vishnu expansions, forms of gods such as Baladeva and Shesha. Baladeva is a direct expansion of Krishna, but he still accepts Krishna as worshipable. When Krishna appeared in the arena of the Rajasuya sacrifice organized by Maharaj Yudhishthira to all present, including great sages and demigods, Krishna became the cynosure, the center of attraction, and everyone offered him respects. 48. All opulent. Krishna is full in opulences, namely strength, wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. When Krishna was present in Dwaraka, his family, which is known as the Yadu dynasty, consisted of 560 million members, and all of these family members were very obedient and faithful to Krishna. There were more than 9 lakh big palatial buildings there to house all the people, and everyone in them respected Krishna as the most worshipable. Devotees were astonished to see the opulence of Krishna. This was verified by Bilvamangal Thakur when in Krishna Karnamrita he addressed Krishna thus: My dear Lord, what can I say about the opulence of your Vrindavana? Simply the ornaments on the legs of the damsels of Vrindavan are more than Chintamani, and their dresses are as good as the heavenly Parijata flowers, and the cows exactly resemble the Surabhi cows in the transcendental abode. Therefore, your opulence is just like an ocean that no one can measure. 49. All honorable. A person who is chief among all important persons is called all honorable. When Krishna was living at Dwaraka, demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Indra, the king of heaven, and many others used to come to visit him. The doorkeeper, who had to manage the entrance of all these demigods one very busy day, said, My dear Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, please sit down on this bench and wait. My dear Indra, please desist from reading your prayers. This is creating a disturbance. Please wait silently. My dear Varuna, please go away. And my dear demigods, do not waste your time uselessly. Krishna is very busy. He cannot see you. 50. The Supreme Controller. The two kinds of controllers are lords. One who is independent is called controller, and one whose orders cannot be neglected by anyone is called controller. Regarding Krishna's complete independence and lordship, Srimad Bhagavatam says that although Kaliya was a great offender, Krishna still favored him by marking his head with his lotus feet, whereas Lord Brahma, although having prayed to Krishna with so many wonderful verses, still could not attract him. This contradictory treatment by Krishna is just befitting his position because in all the Vedic literature he is described as a complete independent. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord is described as Swarat, which means completely independent, that is, the position of the Supreme Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth is not only sentient but is also completely independent. As for Krishna's orders not being neglected by anyone in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, verse 21, Uddhava tells Vidura, Lord Krishna is the master of the three modes of material nature. He is the enjoyer of all opulences, and therefore there is no one equal to or greater than him. All the great kings and emperors used to come before him, offer their gifts, and pay obeisances with their helmets at the feet of the Lord. One devotee said, My dear Krishna, when you order Brahma, now you may create the universe, and when you order Lord Shiva, now you dissolve this material manifestation. You are in this way creating and dissolving the material creation yourself. Simply by your orders and by your partial representation of Vishnu, you are maintaining the universes. In this way, O Krishna, O enemy of Kamsa, there are so many Brahmas and Shivas who are simply carrying out your orders. 51. Changeless. Krishna does not change his constitutional position, not even when he appears in this material world. Ordinary living entities have their spiritual positions covered. They appear in different bodies and under the different bodily concepts of life they act. But Krishna does not change his body. He appears in his own body and is therefore not affected by the modes of material nature. In the first canto, 11th chapter, verse 38 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the special prerogative of the supreme controller is that he is not at all affected by the modes of nature. The practical example of this is that devotees who are under the protection of the Lord are also not affected by material nature. To overcome the influence of the material nature is very difficult, but devotees or the saintly persons who are under the protection of the Lord are not affected. So, what need is there to speak of the Lord Himself? To be more clear, although the Lord sometimes appears in this material world, He has nothing to do with the modes of material nature, and He acts with full independence in His transcendental position. This is a special quality of the Lord. 52. All cognizant. Any person who any person who can understand the feelings of all persons and incidents in all places at all times is called all cognizant. Nice example of the all cognizant quality of the Lord is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 15th chapter, verse 11, in connection with Durvasa Muni's visit to the house of the Pandavas in the forest. Following a calculated plan, Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni and his 10,000 disciples to be guests of the Pandavas in the forest. Duryodhana arranged for Durvasa and his men to reach the palace of the place of the Pandavas just when the Pandavas' lunchtime ended, so that the Pandavas would be caught without sufficient means to feed such a large number of guests. Knowing Duryodhana's plan, Krishna came to the Pandavas and asked their wife Draupadi if there were any remnants of food that she could offer to him. Draupadi offered him a container in which there was only a little fragment of some vegetable preparation, and Krishna at once ate it. At that moment, all of the sages accompanying Durvasa were taking bath in the river, and when Krishna felt satisfaction from eating Draupadi's offering, they also felt satisfaction and their hunger was gone. Because Durvasa and his men were unable to eat anything more, they went away without coming into the house of the Pandavas. In this way, the Pandavas were saved from the wrath of Durvasa. Duryodhana had sent them because he knew that since the Pandavas would not be able to receive such a large number, Durvasa would become angry and the Pandavas would be cursed. But Krishna saved them from the calamity by his trick and by his all cognizant quality. 53. Ever fresh. Krishna is always remembered and his name is always chanted by millions of devotees. But the devotees never become saturated. Instead of becoming disinterested in thinking of Krishna and in chanting his holy name, the devotees get newer and newer impetus to continue the process. Therefore, Krishna is ever fresh. Not only Krishna himself, but also Krishna's knowledge is ever fresh. Bhagavad Gita, which was imparted 5000 years ago, is still being read repeatedly by many, many men, and still new light is always being found in it. Therefore, Krishna in his name, fame, qualities, and everything is in relationship with him is ever fresh. All the queens at Dwaraka were good goddesses of fortune. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 11th chapter, verse 33, that the goddess of fortune are very fickle and restless. So on, so no one can consistently captivate them. Thus, one's luck will always change sometime. Yet the goddesses of fortune could not leave Krishna for even a moment when they were residing with him at Dwaraka. This means that Krishna's attraction is ever fresh. Even the goddesses of fortune cannot leave his company. Regarding Krishna's attractive features being ever fresh, there is a statement by Radharani in the Lalita Madhava in which Krishna is compared to the greatest sculptor because he is expert in chiseling at the chastity of women. In other words, although chaste women may follow the rules and regulations of Vedic principles to become ever faithful to their husbands, Krishna is able to break their stone like chastity with the chisel of his beauty. Most of the girlfriends of Krishna were married, but because Krishna was their friend before their marriages, they could not forget his attractive features, which were always fascinating to them, even after their marriages. 54. Satchidananda Vigraha. Krishna's transcendental body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Sat means ever existing for all times and in all places, in other words, all pervading in time and space. Chit means full of knowledge. Krishna has nothing to learn from anyone. He is independently full of all knowledge. Ananda means the reservoir of all pleasure. The impersonalists are seeking to merge into Brahman effulgence of eternity and knowledge, but the major portion of the absolute pleasure which is in Krishna is avoided by them. one can enjoy the transcendental blissfulness of merging into the Brahman effulgence after being freed from the contamination of material illusion, false identification, attachment, detachment, and material absorption. These are the preliminary qualifications of a person who can realize Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that one has to become full of joyfulness. This is not exactly joyfulness, but a sense of freedom from all anxieties. Freedom from all anxieties may be the first principle of joyfulness, but it is not actual joyfulness. Those who realize the self or become Brahmabhuta are only preparing themselves for the platform of joyfulness. That joyfulness can actually be achieved only when one comes into contact with Krishna. Krishna consciousness is so complete that it includes the transcendental pleasure derived from impersonal or Brahman realization. Even the impersonalists will become attracted to the personal form of Krishna known as Shamasundara. It is confirmed by the statement of Brahma Samhita that the Brahman effulgence is the bodily ray of Krishna. The Brahman effulgence is simply an exhibition of the energy of Krishna. Krishna is the source of the Brahman effulgence, as he himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita. From this, we can conclude that the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth is not the ultimate end. Krishna is the ultimate end of the Absolute Truth. The members of the Vaishnava schools therefore never try to merge into the Brahman effulgence in their pursuit of spiritual perfection. They accept Krishna as the ultimate goal of self realization. Therefore, Krishna is called Param Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, or Parameshwar, the Supreme Controller. Sri Yamunacharya has prayed as follows: My dear Lord, I know that the gigantic universe and gigantic space and time within the universe are covered by the 10 layers of the material elements, each layer 10 times larger than the previous one. The three material modes of nature, the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the Mahavishnu, and beyond them the spiritual sky and its spiritual planets known as Vaikunthas, and the Brahman effulgence in that spiritual sky, all of these taken together are nothing but a small exhibition of your potency. 55. Possessing all mystic perfections. There are many standards of perfections. The highest material perfection obtained by perfect yogis are listed as 8: to become the smallest of the small, to become the greatest of the great, etc. All of these material perfections, as well as all spiritual perfections, can be found fully in Krishna's personality. 56. Krishna's inconceivable potencies. Krishna is present everywhere, not only within the universe, not only within the hearts of all living entities, but also within every atom. In the prayers of Queen Kunti, we find mention of this inconceivable potency of Krishna. While Krishna was talking with Kunti, he simultaneously entered the womb of Uttara, who was in danger due to the atomic weapon of Ashwatthama. Krishna can illusion even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and he can protect all surrendered souls, all surrendered devotees from the reactions of sinful activities. These are some of the examples of his inconceivable potencies. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore offers his obeisances unto Krishna by saying, Krishna, who is present as a human being, has as his mere shadow the whole material nature. He has expanded himself into so many cows, calves, and cowherd boys, and he has again manifested himself in all of them as the four-handed Narayana. He has taught millions of he has taught millions of Brahmas self-realization, and thus he is worshipable only not only by the heads of all universes, but by everyone else also. Therefore, let me always accept him as the supreme personality of Godhead. When Indra was defeated by Krishna in the matter of taking the Parijata plant from heaven, Narada met Indra and criticized him. O Indra, O great king of heaven, Krishna has already defeated Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So what can be said of an insignificant demigod like you? Narada Muni, of course, was criticizing Indra jokingly, and Indra enjoyed it. In Narada's statement, it is confirmed that Krishna was able to illusion even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva as well as Indra. So there is no question of Krishna's power to do the same to lesser living entities. A description of Krishna's power in minimizing the sufferings of sinful reactions is given in Brahma Samhita as follows: beginning from the great king of heaven down to the ant, everyone is undergoing the reactions of past deeds. But a devotee of Krishna is relieved from such reactions by the grace of Krishna. This way clearly proved when this was clearly proved when Krishna went to the palace of Yamaraj, the lord of the death, to reclaim the dead son of his teacher. Krishna's teacher had requested Krishna to bring back his dead son, and to do so, Krishna went to the place of Yamaraj to claim that soul, who had been brought there by Yamaraj and was being kept under his control. Krishna immediately ordered Yamaraj be benefited by my order and return that soul unto me. The, pur- the purport of this incident is that even a person who is under the regulative principles of the laws of nature and who is therefore punishable by Yamaraj under these laws can be granted complete immunity by the grace of Krishna. Krishna's inconceivable potencies have been described by Shukadeva Goswami as follows. Krishna is bewildered by Krishna is bewildering my intelligence because although he is unborn, he has appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is all pervading, but still he is held on the lap of Yashoda. In spite of his being all pervasive, he has become limited of the love of Yashoda. Although he has innumerable forms, still he is mourned as Although he has innumerable forms, still he is moving as one Krishna before his father and mother, Nanda and Yashoda. In Brahma Samhita also it is said that although Krishna is eternally living in Goloka Vrindavan, his transcendental abode, is still present everywhere, even within the atoms. 57. Krishna's body generates innumerable universes. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, my dear Lord Shiva, false ego, intelligence, mind, sky, air, fire, water, and earth are the material ingredients of this universe, which can be compared to a gigantic pot. In that gigantic pot, my body is of insignificant measurement, and even though one of the many universes is created by my innumerable universes are coming and going from the pores of your body, just as atomic particles are seen flickering in the light. I think I am very insignificant before you, and I am therefore begging your pardon. Please be merciful toward me. If one takes account of only one universe, so he will find out. If one takes account of only one universe, he will find so many combinations of wonderful things within because there are innumerable planets, innumerable residences and palaces of demigods. The diameter of the universe, the diameter of the universe is 4 billion miles, and it is infested with many unfathomable regions known as patalas or lower planetary systems. Although Krishna is the origin of all this, he can always be seen in Vrindavan exhibiting his inconceivable potencies. So, who can adequately worship such an all powerful Lord possessed of such inconceivable listening? A description of Krishna's power in minimizing the sufferings of sinful reactions is given in Brahma Samhita as follows. Beginning from the great king of heaven down to the ant, everyone is undergoing the reactions of past deeds. But a devotee of Krishna is relieved from such reactions by the grace of Krishna. This is clearly proved when Krishna went to the place of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, to reclaim the dead son of his teacher. Krishna's teacher had requested Krishna to bring back his dead son, and to do so, Krishna went to the place of Yamaraj to claim that soul, who had been brought there by Yamaraj and was being kept under his control. Krishna immediately ordered Yamaraj be benefited by my order and return that soul unto me. The purport of this incident is that even a person who is under the regulative principles of the laws of nature and who is therefore punishable by Amaraj under these laws can be granted complete immunity by the grace of Krishna. Krishna's inconceivable potencies have been described by Shukadeva Goswami as follows. Krishna is bewildering my intelligence because although he is unborn, he has appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is all pervading, but still he is held on the lap of Yashoda in spite of his Being all pervasive, he has become limited by the love of Yashoda. Although he has innumerable forms, still he is moving as on Krishna before his father and mother Nanda and Yashoda. In the Brahma Samhita also it is said that although Krishna is eternally living in Goloka Vrindavana, his transcendental abode, he is still present everywhere, even within the atoms. 57. Krishna's body generates innumerable universes. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, My dear Lord, false ego, intelligence, mind, sky, air, water, and earth are the material ingredients of this universe, which can be compared to a gigantic pot. In that gigantic pot of my body is of insignificant measurement, and even though one of the many universes is created by me, innumerable universes are coming and going from the pores of your body, just as atomic particles are seen flickering in the sunlight. I think I am very, very insignificant before you, and I am therefore begging your pardon. Please be merciful toward me. If one takes account of only one universe, he will find so many combinations of wonderful things within, because there are innumerable planets, innumerable residences, and places of demigods. The diameter of the universe is 4 billion miles, and it is infested with many unfathomable regions known as patalas or lower planetary systems. Although Krishna is the origin of all, he can always be seen in Vrindavan exhibiting his inconceivable potencies. So, who can adequately worship such an all powerful Lord possessed of such inconceivable energy? 58. The original source of all incarnations. Jayadeva Goswami in his Gita Govinda has sung as follows: The Lord has saved the Vedas in his form as a fish, and he has borne the whole universe uh, on his back in the form of a tortoise. He has picked up his earthly planet from the water in the form of a boar. He has killed Hiranyakashipu in the form of Narsimha. He has cheated Maharaj Bali in the form of Vamana. He has annihilated all the dynasties of the Kshatriyas in the form of a Parashurama. He has killed all the demons in the form of Lord Rama. He has accepted the great plough in the form of Balarama. He has annihilated all the atheistic persons in the form of Kalki. And he has saved all poor animals in the form of Lord Buddha. These are some of the descriptions of the incarnations emanating from Krishna, and from Srimad Bhagavatam it is understood that innumerable incarnations are always coming out from the body of Krishna, just like waves in the ocean. No one can even count how many waves there are, and similarly, no one can count how many incarnations are coming from the Lord's body. All of these incarnations of God are described in the author's Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, chapter 3. 59. Krishna gives salvation to the enemies that he kills. Another name for salvation is apavarga. Apavarga is opposite of pavarga, or the various miserable conditions of material existence. The word pavarga indicates a combination of five Sanskrit letters: pa, pa, ba, and ma. These letters are the first letters of the words of for five different conditions as described below. The first letter pa comes from the word of parabhava, which means defeat. In this material struggle for existence, we are simply meeting defeat. Actually, we have to conquer birth, death, disease, and old age, and because there is no possibility of overcoming all these miserable conditions due to the illusion of Maya, we are simply meeting with Parabhava, or defeat. The next letter Pa is taken from the Pa. Pa is taken from the word Fena. Fena is a foam which is found on the mouth when one is very tired, as is commonly observed with horses. The letter Ba comes from the word Bandha, or bondage. Bha is taken from the word Bhiti, or fearfulness. Ma is taken from the word Mriti, or death. So, word Pavarga signifies our struggle for existence and our meeting with defeat, exhaustion, bondage, fearfulness, and at last death. Apavarga means that which can nullify all of these material conditions. Krishna is said to be the giver of Apavarga, the path of liberation. For the impersonalists and the enemies of Krishna, liberation means merging into the Supreme. The demons and the impersonalists do not care for Krishna, but Krishna is so kind that he gives his liberation even to his enemies and to the impersonalists. There is the following statement in this connection: O Murari Krishna, how wonderful it is that although the demons who were always envious of the demigods have failed to penetrate your military phalanx, they have penetrated the region of Mitra, the sun globe. The word Mitra is used metaphorically. Mitra means sun globe, and Mitra also means friend. The demons who oppose Krishna as enemies wanted to penetrate his military phalanx, But instead of doing this, they died in the battle, and the result was that they penetrated the planet of Mitra, the sun planet. In other words, they entered into the Brahman effulgence. The example of the sun planet is given here because the sun is ever illuminating like the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable illuminating Vaikuntha planets. The enemies of Krishna were killed, and instead of penetrating Krishna's phalanx, they entered into the friendly atmosphere of that spiritual effulgence. That is the mercy of Krishna, and therefore he is known as the deliverer of his enemies also. 60. The attractor of liberated souls. There are many examples of how there are many examples of how Krishna attracted even great liberated souls like Sukadeva Goswami and the Kumaras. In this connection, the following statement was given by the Kumaras. How wonderful it is that although we are completely liberated, free from desire, and situated at the stage of Paramahamsa, we are still aspiring to taste the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. 61. Performer of wonderful activities. In the Brihad Vamana Purana, the Lord says, although I have many fascinating pastimes, whenever I think of the Rasa Leela which I perform with the gopis, I become eager to have it again. One devotee has said, I know about Narayana, the husband of goddess of fortune, and I also know about many other incarnations of the Lord. Certainly, all the pastimes of such incarnations are exciting to my mind, but still, the pastimes of the Rasa Leela performed by Lord Krishna himself are wonderfully increasing my transcendental pleasure. Krishna is surrounded by loving devotees. 62. When we speak of Krishna, Krishna is not alone. Krishna means his name, his qualities, his fame, his friends, his paraphernalia, his entourage. All of these are included. When we speak of a king, it is to be understood that he is surrounded by ministers, secretaries, military commanders, and many other people. Similarly, Krishna is not impersonal. In his Vrindavan Leela, especially, he is surrounded by the gopis, the cowherd boys, his father, his mother, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavana. In the 10th canto, 31st chapter, verse 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the gopis lament, my dear Krishna, during the pastimes, during the daytime when you go out into the forest of Vrindavan with the cows, we consider one moment to be 12 years, and it is very difficult for us to pass the time. And again, when you come back at the end of the day, by seeing your beautiful face, we are so much attracted that we are unable to stop looking upon you constantly. At these times, when there is an occasional blinking of our eyelids, we condemn the Creator, Lord Brahma, as a dunce, because he does not know how to make perfect eyes. In other words, the gopis are disturbed by the blinking of their eyes, because at the moment that their eyes are closed, they could not see Krishna. This means that the gopis' love for Krishna was so great and ecstatic that they were disturbed by even his momentary absence. And when they saw Krishna, they were also disturbed. This is a paradox. One gopi, expressing herself to Krishna, says, when we meet you at night, we consider the duration of night to be very small. And why speak of only this night? Even if we had a night of Brahma, we would consider it a very short time. We get an idea of Brahma's day from the following statement of Bhagavad Gita 8.17. By human calculation, 1,000 yuga cycles taken together is Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. The gopis said that even if they could have the duration of night, it would still not be sufficient for their meeting with Krishna. 4.3 trillion solar years equals 12 hours or one night of Brahma. Number 63, Krishna's attractive flute. In the 10th canto, 35th chapter, verse 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the gopis tell Mother Yashoda, when your son plays on his flute, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Indra, although they are supposed to be the greatest learned scholars and personalities, all become bewildered. Although they are all very great personalities, by hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, they humbly bow down and become grey from studying the sound vibrated. In his book Vidagdha Madhavaya, Rupa Goswami thus describes the vibration of Krishna's flute. The sound vibration created by the flute of Krishna wonderfully stopped Lord Shiva from playing his Dindima drum, and the same flute has caused great sages like the four Kumaras to become disturbed in their meditation. It has caused Lord Brahma, who was sitting on the lotus flower for the creative function, to become astonished, and Anantadeva, who was calmly holding all the planets on his hood, was moving in this way and that due to the transcendental vibration from Krishna's flute which penetrated through the covering of the universe and reached the spiritual sky. 64. Krishna's exquisite beauty. In the third canto, second chapter, verse 12 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Uddhava tells Vidura, my dear sir, Krishna's form was most wonderful when he appeared on this planet and exhibited the potency of his internal energy. His wonderfully attractive form was present during his pastimes on this planet, and by his internal potency he exhibited his opulences, which is striking to everyone. His personal beauty was so great that there was no necessity for his wearing ornaments on his body. In fact, instead of the ornaments beautifying Krishna, Krishna's beauty enhanced the ornaments. Regarding the attractiveness of Krishna's bodily beauty and the sound vibration of his flute, in the 10th canto, 29th chapter, verse 40 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the gopis address Krishna as follows. Although our attitude toward you resembles loving affairs with the paramour, we cannot but wonder at how no woman can maintain her chastity upon hearing the vibration from your flute. And not only women, but even strong hearted men are subjected to falling down from their position at the sound of your flute. In fact, we have seen that in Vrindavan, even the cows, the deers, the birds, the trees, everyone has been enchanted with the sweet vibration of your flute and the fascinating beauty of your presence. In Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava, it is said, one day Krishna happened to see the shadow of his beautiful form reflected on the jeweled foreground. Upon seeing this bodily reflection, he expressed his feelings. How wonderful it is that I have never seen such a beautiful form. Although it is my own form, still like Radharani, I am trying to embrace this form and enjoy celestial bliss. This statesman shows how Krishna and his shadow reflections are one and the same. There is no difference between Krishna and his shadow reflection, nor between Krishna and his picture. That is the transcendental position of Krishna. The above statements describe some of the wonderful reservoirs of pleasure within Krishna as well as the transcendental qualities of his personality. The transcendental qualities of Krishna are compared to the ocean. No one can estimate the length and breadth of the ocean, but as one can understand the ocean's content simply by testing one drop of it. So these statements will give us some understanding of Krishna's transcendental position and qualities. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, my dear Lord, the inconceivable qualities, beauties, and activities which you have revealed by your presence on this planet cannot be calculated by any material measurement. If one even tries to imagine Krishna may be like this, that is also impossible. The day may come when the material scientist, after many births of after many years, will be able to estimate the atomic constitution of the whole world, or he may be able to count the atomic fragments that permeate the sky, or he may even give an estimate of all the atoms within the universe, but still he will never be able to count the transcendental qualities in your reservoir of transcendental bliss. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thus ends the 22nd chapter of Nectar of Devotion. Hari Om Tat Sat.